The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello, welcome to the show. Brought to you with Levi's Solicitors. 10% discount is yours at levisolicitors.co.uk/the Square Ball. Dan Moylan with you, along with Michael Normanton and Rob Conlon as well. All back from our long Frodo-like odyssey to Mount Doom. Chucking the ring in, metaphor. You know what I'm talking about.
Still not seen those films, but you know, I know what you're on about.
He goes on a long walk, just Frodo, basically.
Oh, looks like Oldham.
Yes, it does. Ellesmere Port in particular is charming. We'll have a little natter about what happened on the walk in part 2. And don't worry, if you weren't on the walk, we'll make it entertaining for you, because it was very, very entertaining, wasn't it? Essentially like a big Leeds away day.
Yeah, but with more blisters.
Yeah, and infections and stress fractures, and yeah, things have gone wrong for a number of people. We will come to all that in part 2. First part 1 is going to be where we catch up on all the latest Leeds United news. We will continue the show over the summer. Of course we will. Weekly show, we'll round up anything.
Keep up to date with all the made-up transfer rumours. Maybe start a few of our own while we're at it.
That's what we should do. We should set out this summer to go full DePaul again.
DePaul was real, unless he was in on it as well, because he did actually reply to a tweet.
Yeah,
didn't he? So.
That's not. I just said that's not happening. By the way, we should say right from the top, it's not happening, is it?
Danny Welbeck, though.
Well,
what have you heard?
Now, I was just going to say, a denial about Rodrigo de Paul is exactly what they want you to believe if they were going after him, isn't it?
Exactly. In the words of Jimmy Nail, he's lying.
So what we do know is we've got Brenden Aaronson through the door from Salzburg. Best part of 25 million quid. Where exactly does he play? He looks exciting anyway, I know that.
Winger, striker, behind the striker.
Go on, Rob. You're
midfielder, number 10, number 8.
Yeah, versatile. It's sort of an inside forward almost, isn't it? I think if you're going to characterise him as anything.
Just under the helmet is where he plays. in the penis.
In the penis formation.
He's on the brim.
Wow. Quite a lot of money, isn't it? Have you seen the YouTube highlights? I presume that's where everyone gets their information from these days. Did you see that Salzburg actually posted like best bits of him as he signed for us, which I thought was nice, like a farewell? Because usually you get like a bitter tweet, don't you, from a club that's selling a player. We wish you all the best for the future. We can confirm, etc. But no, it was dead nice that they did that.
That's very nice of them. I've also found a really strange YouTube account that he's claiming he's the expert of what he's calling a counter meg, where another player goes to nutmeg him and he nutmegs them back by tackling them. And as far as I can tell, I think this YouTube channel is joking, because as far as I can tell, it's a complete fluke that the ball ricochets off his legs and goes through the other guy's legs. But the guy who is making this YouTube channel has also found an example of Brenden Aaronson's little brother doing the same thing. And I think he might be trying to claim it, which you know, is a skill, I guess.
Yeah, he does. There is another one that we can get as well if we want to go for that. I know not twins, but we can go for the full Rod Wallace package and get his brother along as well. I think he's still a child though, isn't he? More or less.
Are you allowed to import children into the country? I don't think you are you? That's generally sort of frowned upon.
Possibly not.
I mean, my main take on Brenden Aaronson is just how young he looks. Mm-hmm. Like, he looks frighteningly young and seems frighteningly young.
And you say this is a man who's under 30?
Yeah. And Moscow's a really good article about him on the blog, pointing out his TikTok trends, which is just the behaviour of a very young person. And I'm really not sure what he's going to make of Beeston, because there are videos of him on TikTok enjoying breakfast out surrounded by the Alps and looking like he's having the time of his life.
Well, there's a big hill in Beeston. What's the issue?
Yeah, it's similar. It is very similar. He's 21. That is genuinely young, isn't it?
Do you remember what it was like to be 21?
I think my hair was going, to be honest. I think it was the first signs of thinking, because obviously a thrifty sort was still cutting my own hair, even in those days. And to be honest, it was only about a centimetre longer than it is now. But just shaving is like, it's getting quite easy to cut at the back, is this? There's not an awful lot of resistance.
At what age did you abandon paying for haircuts and just doing it yourself?
At the point at which I had to pay for my own haircuts from like 15 onwards.
What did you do with it?
I just sort of shaved it the same length all over. I think I used to do it 4 all over, and then a bit of shorter bits on the side.
Did it look good?
Don't know, probably not. And I used to just feel it. You're like, that feels roughly the same length.
It's like any sort of artisan, isn't it? They can just do it by touch. Shut your eyes and do it by touch. Is that presumably what you were doing? Anyway, back to Brenden Aaronson. Yeah, it is a very wholesome life, isn't it? I likened it when I mentioned, I think last week, to like an Abercrombie and Fitch or Hollister advert or something like that. They look like they've had a very nice life together.
I feel like Jackie Harrison and his girlfriend are either going to really love Brenden Aaronson and his girlfriend, or they're going to be in like some Vardy-Rooney war by the end of the season and just clash.
Bless me, his girlfriend's a footballer as well, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's done some wholesome soccer pictures on her Instagram account. I can't remember her name now. But yeah, why has he got no facial hair? It disturbs me a little bit.
He's a mere boy.
He's very smooth, though. Very smooth.
Moscow again pointed out, if you compare him to Sam Greenwood, who's actually younger than him, you can tell Sam Greenwood was brought up in Sunderland.
I was going to say, he's been down the pit, since he was 8, working the coal out of the little seams with the little tiny fingers. You can get into those real crevices with the smaller fingers in Sunderland. Yeah, a different world.
I think he's quite exciting though, as a signing.
He looks to do a lot of running with the ball, which I think is going to be a hallmark of what we try and do next year. How do you feel about kind of having, like we're saying, it's 10 days ago, having sort of shed the skin of last season, have we? A little bit.
I don't know, really. It's been weird because we've had this walk looming. I've not had any real time to reflect on the season. I've just gone straight into that. I'm still quite worried, I think. If I actually think about it, I think I'm...
Yeah, but that's your default setting.
I think I'm got the relief of staying up this year, but then I've sort of thought, next year's going to be tough. Straight away.
Where are we in the odds? We're fourth favourites, which actually makes sense when you think about it, because we were the lowest placed team to stay up, weren't we? So the 3 promoted sides are the favourites to go down: Bournemouth, Forest and Fulham. What do you... I mean, it's a long way away, isn't it? But they're obviously going to be down there because it's just difficult, as we've seen, isn't it, to break that Premier League glass ceiling. Any other teams that you look in the odds there? Like Southampton are not far away, Brentford are not far away. Wolves surprisingly short odds.
I think Palace will be interesting as well, because they obviously had Conor Gallagher this year, and I saw some stats we were obviously at the top of saying minutes missed through injury, and Palace were really low on that as well. So you think if Palace were to have a bad year with injuries and Gallagher goes back and maybe his replacement doesn't work out as well, although I think they are trying to sign him, but whether they do or not is up for debate still. But it's I feel like things could probably turn for them, because while they had a really good season, they were only kind of a couple of wins away from having a slightly tense season like us. So I think they might be down there. Yeah, Brentford as well.
Because we were all quite angry, Rob, about the way that last season went, and I guess now that we stayed up, we can exhale and breathe a sigh of relief. How do you feel about the closing of the season and where we are and what needs to happen next, and filtering into that the arrival of Aaronson as a first move in the market? Yeah,
I'm still trying to decompress from it all, really. I think it was absolutely exhausting, and then having to...
Are you talking about the walk now, or the
end of the season? Yeah. But then having to gear ourselves up for the walk was kind of didn't let you settle from the actual season. But yeah, obviously a lot of things need to change, don't they? I think the end of the season and the way things were for much of the season were incredibly frustrating. But at the same time, as soon as it was full time at Brentford, it was right. Look, Brenden Aaronson. Who else are we signing and all this? And I feel like, oh God, can I just have sort of a bit of a rest from all this? But I mean, I think
you shouldn't have accepted the job.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I'm just lazy, really. But I think that's the thing with Aaronson signing so quickly as well. It feels like the team is going to look a lot different at the start of next season to how it did at the end of last season. And we're still waiting to see who those players are going to be, and also the style of football and the tactics. Are we going to see a continuation of those last 2 games of the season where we did kind of go back to what we know a little bit and play with width and play Kalvin in a role that seemed to suit him a bit more? Or is it going to be going back to the kind of 4-2-3-1, 4-2-2-2, however many twos it is, of marsh ball, as it's called? And I think that, I kind of share some of your concerns there, but it's just a lot of not knowing as things stand.
I guess the concerns, though, they come from the body of evidence that we've seen, which was 12 games that were really, really hard to get through. Last couple, there were some green shoots, weren't there? Like we saw a little bit of something in that team, particularly on the last day. And you put in players who are maybe better suited to it. Maybe it's just some better players, some players who are not completely knackered.
I think it's good that we're doing business early as well. I'm sort of reassured by this, because we've obviously got one in, and it seems like I was saying earlier, I keep calling him Christian Rasmussen or Rasmus Kristensen. I can never remember which one it is, but it is Rasmus, isn't it? The actual name. The fact that we're seemingly straight on the trail of another player as well. It'd be nice if we got back to pre-season and there were at least 3 or 4 players in there from the start, so you're not having to get to 2 weeks before the season and you're already into that discussion. I mean, it probably won't be as much of a case as it was under Bielsa, but you're into that discussion of, they'll probably be starting on the bench and then they'll have to kind of work their way into the team. It'd be nice.
It feels like all bets are off, doesn't it, a bit?
It'd be nice if we just got to the start of the summer, the start of pre-season, and everyone went, right, well, this is the squad now. It's done. And there was
It won't necessarily be that, because obviously the way that the window works. But I mean, like, just to draw comparisons with last year, when we spoke to Angus Kinnear in here, it was about the 8th-ish, 9th-ish of August, wasn't it?
Which we will try to do again, by the way.
Yeah.
We'll ask him back on.
When he's not having fun over in New York.
Oh, he looks having the time of his life on that picture, didn't he?
Really pleased to be photographed there.
As Moscow said, he always looks like he's going to be sick on pictures.
But we spoke to Angus Kinnear. Yeah, it was just before the first game of the season, wasn't it? And I don't think Bielsa had signed his contract at that point. We'd only signed Junior Firpo. Dan James hadn't come in at that point. We were still hoping for a midfielder. And that was days before the season started, so you really, really want to feel that sense of security that there's a plan in place and we're not going to trade, because it felt a bit like we were trying to wing it last season based on that 2-year plan, and I think that's probably what fed into all the annoyance and the anger about how last season went off the rails, because people went, this probably ain't enough, and then it kind of played out that way.
I kind of want the sales to get done as well, because if Rafinha's going, I want him to go soon, because it means we can get the money in and start properly preparing, whereas it feels like Barcelona are going to be up in their bid by like £1 a week for eternity. Just going, I know you turned down 30, but we're like 30 and one of our youth players, would that do? If we send you some bibs, the kind of tiny little increments that they seem to be going into.
And the fear is that Victor Orta, gets caught up in the idea of getting Barcelona's players and goes, oh yes, let's have him and him.
It's worked well so far.
Yeah, I do like the look of Rasmus Kristensen. He's got cult hero written all over him, hasn't he? Is it the shaved head, the Michael style shaved head? Maybe
he looks very solid, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's big. I like that, especially for a fullback. It's kind of like, who's the freak that plays for Brighton, or did he go to
Dan Burn?
Yeah. Having him at fullback, because I think we do lack height as a team, and seeing sort of this big dynamic guy.
It's quite a tank, isn't he?
He's got. He's in a few YouTube videos with Brenden Aaronson, sort of doing little jokey Q&As at Salzburg, and they remind me of Joffrey and Charlie Cresswell, because he's sort of Brenden Aaronson looking all young, and he's very slight, isn't he?
A kid and his dad.
Joffrey role, yeah, and then it's like, this is my hard mate who I just sort of hang out with, and he looks after me.
Yeah, where do you sit on Kalvin? That's a bit troublesome, isn't it? I think I think we all kind of appreciate that Rafinha's probably going to go from all the body language and all the rest of it, but there's still that real grey area around Kalvin with the contract.
You say the body language. Did you see him at Brentford?
No, you know what I mean? Like the final home game, out on the pitch and lingering and doing a Pontus and all that, and that kind of foreshadowed where that one was going. Echoes of that. It's just Kalvin, isn't it? Because did he not do that interview? And I didn't watch it, but did he not say in that interview in the run up to the end of the season where he said, ideally Leeds stay up and I sign a new contract? Is that correct? Did he say that?
I don't know about that.
Let's
I also don't know about that.
But I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I would as well. If anyone's too good for us and likely to stay, it's him.
Yeah.
Truth be told, because he seems quite a home bird of a man, doesn't he? Like he's very much tied to this area. And I know if he went to Man City, it's not like he'd even have to move, but it'd be part of his identity, I guess.
He's not going to be happy there, is he? Winning stuff.
It'd be dreadful. Being paid 3 times as much, winning a guaranteed trophy or 2 every season.
Awful life,
playing with all the best players in the world, best coach in the world.
Are you excited about next season? Can you get excited about? I don't think you ever get excited, do you, Michael?
I'm always excited about stuff.
Just have degrees of worry.
I get excited about stuff, but then a bit just goes, ooh, but what about?
But if you get excited, that'll create anticipation, Michael, and your hopes always get dashed.
I was excited for this season. Look what happened. Yeah. It was bloody dreadful. I was excited to get back in the ground. It was going to be great. Really looking forward to Ellen Road. Early games, we kept saying it, didn't we? Saying, but it's so good to be back, isn't it?
Yeah.
By the end, it was bloody awful. But I'm always excited. And however badly a summer goes, you still get to the first day of the season and go, Dave Hockaday, all these new players.
There is genuinely no better time, is there?
It might not work, but it just.
It's unconventional. Maybe this is the kind of disruptors that we are.
Yeah, with Hockaday season, you thought, well, we've had kind of proven managers, and they didn't do well, did they? Maybe what we need is a complete no-hoper who's never done anything like this before, and maybe it'll just work. Speaking
of ex-managers, are you enjoying Neil Warnock being on Twitter? Have you seen that?
Yes, I've seen bits of it. Yeah, I've enjoyed. It was Rowan Vine talking about him as well, which stuff that we might not repeat on here, but something about the structure of playing for Neil Warnock and the financial arrangements around it, probably worth seeking out on YouTube.
It was all completely new to me as well. I'd never heard any of that before.
No, you never hear these rumours about Neil Warnock, so it was a massive surprise.
And you see the little back and forth he had with Jed Spence?
Yes.
Who he was trying to make it out like his bombing him out on loan to Forest from Middlesbrough was somehow his success. Like, I told you, you'd either be Premier League or you'd be non-league. And shut up.
Yeah, he does this.
Right, so Premier League teams confirmed for next year, as we were touching on then. The 3 promoted teams are Bournemouth and Fulham that we knew about, and then Forest, who beat Huddersfield in the playoffs. I mean, just to contextualise this around the charity walk that we've just done, we walked into Huddersfield on Saturday, and then left Huddersfield on Sunday morning and made for Leeds. We saw a few of their fans around, didn't we? I think some of the people, because we walked a lot of the people walked the Canal towpath in Leeds shirts, got a bit of dogs abuse for wearing the shirts around Huddersfield territory, which is a bit unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah, so I didn't actually see any. I don't think I had a Leeds shirt on at that point, so yeah, I'd have missed it, and I've set off very early as well because my legs are broken. But
I don't know if you noticed as well. Did you, when you got to the Canal towpath at Slowett, there was a charity shop and they had 2 Huddersfield shirts in the window. I just thought it was dead funny that it happened to be a charity shop. What do you reckon to that then, the playoff final? I know we were all broken.
In some ways I wanted Huddersfield to go up, I have to say.
Why?
I thought they were probably the most likely to come straight back down. And I'm still in that mindset of wanting there to just be 3 worse teams than us for next season.
Which I think is reasonable.
Whereas, I mean, Forest, they're a good team to have in the Premier League. Like, we've spoken before about the perfect Premier League being your childhood Premier League, and Forest are very much in that. And they're a size of club that should be in the Premier League. You can't have teams who've won the European Cup kicking around the Championship forever, can you?
Like we did,
exactly. Whereas Huddersfield, realistically, are more likely to be a Norwich, Watford. Who,
mind you, they've got some stars above their badge, haven't they? So they must have won that.
That was true. They did. I mean, they did. They were very successful in the very early years, weren't they? But yeah, I think I kind of wanted Huddersfield to come up and be the reassuring Norwich presence who could go down on like 24 points, and you can pretty much from September onwards be like, okay, it's one of the spots taken care of. Thank you very much. Whereas there's a chance Forest might do well.
But this leaves Coburn intact though by not going up. If he'd have come up and completely knackered it, got fired, this keeps him just nicely bubbling under the surface.
So we can replace him. We can replace Marsh with him come sort of October. Is that what you're thinking?
I wasn't necessarily thinking that soon because that would indicate a bad season for us. But
is it going to? If we get Lewis O'Brien now, is it going to be we're getting Coburn's players in for him?
Yeah, it keeps O'Brien available as well. Who I must admit, prior to us being linked with him last summer, I'd not seen a great deal of, but I have watched a few Huddersfield games now, and he's quite good.
Do you think we should just go in there and buy him? I mean, I was indifferent to it, but you almost think we should just go buy him because we can, just to make a point.
Yes. Okay, let's do that.
Bring Tom Lees with him, like we're bringing Kristensen.
Well, in the same way that it's really, really pissed us off that those Barcelona fans on Twitter have been like, you're denying Rafinha his dream move. How dare you deny him a move to our skint club that can't even register players or pay the ones that it's got? Is it 50 million they owe to one of their players? Is it PK or something like that?
I don't really understand Barcelona's finances. They just go from being completely skint to all of a sudden signing loads of players and then being skint again. They're just very much on the constantly getting a new credit card, and
it's the can't pay, we'll take it away vibe,
spending all of it straight away, and then be like, oh, I've got no money left. Can't believe it.
I need that dopamine hit.
It's happened again.
I preferred it when they wanted Rodrigo. That was better, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's still available. He's still available. Maybe he can be like a buy one get one free.
Well, when Angus came in here last summer and said that Rodrigo could have a big season, don't be surprised if he's our player of the season. Maybe that's next season.
Yeah, okay. I remember when we spoke to Angus. This is completely unfair on him, really, to call this out because it was a very different club at the time. It was the Kristensen season, talking about the recruitment and some of the younger players we bought, and he was saying, don't judge J.R. Grott by what he is now, judge him in 5 years' time. I think we're probably there now, aren't we? It's not. J.R. Grott's not gone well.
I remember him making his debut at Forest, and everyone was so excited by just how big the man was.
Well, he looked like he could be amazing because he was so big and athletic looking, and you thought, like, bloody hell.
Well, he's got that kind of, you look at players now like someone like Lukaku. Well, so look at Lukaku and you see his physicality, and he's just a beast, isn't he? And I think you probably need a bit of that in the Premier League these days, like just a big big bulky fucker.
Yeah, look, it reminded me physically of like a young Ronaldo. But then he got the ball and you went, oh shit. Okay, he can't. And also he didn't know how to use his strength either. He'd either go for no strength or all strength, and occasionally throw people into the stands and stuff. And you think, oh dear, you don't know what you're doing.
Well, there you go. It's underway then. It's the summer, isn't it? We're all excited, as you can tell. Looking forward to it. I think you've got to factor in that we are all physically exhausted from having walked the 92 miles, which we'll talk about in part 2, actually. But I think Aaronson, a good start. Let's hope we build on it.
And I do like the look of Rasmus as well. He's got loads of goals and assists as well for a right back. Like 10 goals last year.
Not somebody who's lurking in the shadows, you'd say.
How long have you waited for that?
22 minutes according to the recording time.
Okay, well done. Hope you're proud of yourself. So yeah, we'll have the usual. Who are the other ones who've been linked with for a couple of years? Ryan Kent, when's he going to get linked? Dan James again, even though we've already bought him. Someone will forget.
We could loan him out and then...
Nketiah's signed a contract, hasn't he? So that's...
Has he actually signed that?
Signing
has that happened?
I'm not sure if it's gone through yet, but that sounds like Leeds did take a look at him, but it's not going to happen now. There's the James Garner, who was on loan at Forest, scum player. We're still being linked with...
That would be a loan, though, I think, wouldn't it?
And it sounds like Calvin Ramsey, the Aberdeen fullback, is going to go Liverpool, by the sounds.
What's he thinking?
Little Judas bastard. Unless you sign, in which case, welcome to the club.
Yeah, in which we just signed him to really, really upset Cody Drama, who has already said he's not that pleased about us signing a right back, which is fair enough. But yeah, Ayling's likely to miss the start of the season, isn't he? So, and Dallas is possibly going to miss all of it, I would guess. So yeah, we do need cover there.
God bless those boys. It's time for a new start, isn't it?
Is that it? Get rid?
All of them? No. Feels mean, Michael. Don't say that.
It does feel like at the end of last season, I was a bit like, no, we'd have to move on from Ayling and Dallas so quickly. Like, come on, they've just finished 9th. They're brilliant. Whereas this season, this summer, it feels a lot more like, okay, yeah, this needs to happen.
Yeah.
I'm maybe a bit more emotionally ready for it.
Yeah, I think they can hang around. They can be options, but we probably need something a bit.
Some more legs.
We do. We need. That's the thing. I actually don't want to. We'll come on to this because I think we're going to do probably some extra ball season review type stuff. But I almost feel like the squad was so thin last year. I don't really want to get rid of anyone apart from maybe a couple of the higher earners, like get someone like Rodrigo, maybe try and get rid of just because he's a massive sponge on all the wages and stuff.
You've really grown to hate him.
The last few games of the season,
I've got like that.
I just feel like, honest to God, just fuck off. I've completely lost my rag with it. I think it was the Brighton, the last home game. I was just screaming at him at several points. So other than him, like people like Click and Ayling and Cooper's come in and been like arguably our best player since his return, so he's definitely going to stay around. But yeah, some of the boys of promotion, you think I don't really want him to leave. I think I want him to be slowly kind of moved aside. Maybe I'd like to see him play 10-12 games each next season, and try and move on in a nice gradual way.
There you go then, part 1 done and dusted. Into part 2, where we will have a little reflection on the long old walk that we did, which hurt our feet tremendously, but it's not all bad news. There's some good fun stuff in there as well. Stick about for that.
The Square Ball Podcast.